Welcome to video number 4, working with zones. Zones are probably one of the most powerful features of Quickshow XL because it really allows you to do so many different things with a number of different projectors. As you see, the projectors we have multiplied. What we're going to do for this video and the video in a few from now about working with multiple projectors is use this guy. We pulled this guy as an X-beam out of our trade show stock. It is beat to you-know-what, having been shipped all over the country and used for a whole bunch of trade shows. And we did that on purpose because it's going to show you what it's going to look like with a projector that's way out of tune for its scanners. And so you have two very different sets of projectors that we're going to have to make work together in some fashion. So, first of all, zones. What are they? Zones are a software concept. When we think about zones and that sort of thing in regular lighting, we think about pathways of information. We think about a universe of DMX. In the laser, it's a little bit different. So I'm going to refer to this as a DAC, or a set, or a group of information. And a zone is a software concept, which we'll get into in a second. So in this dialog that you have in Quickshow XL, you have projection zones. And running up and down here, you see you have a whole bunch of zones, in fact, 30 zones. And attached to those zones are a piece of hardware, in this case, projector 1 FB 50340. That's this guy right here. I also have this guy, and I'm going to go ahead and hook him up just like this. Get my happy ding from the computer here. And if I close this bubble, what you'll see now is that I actually have two different DACs which are both being addressed by the software. 50340, which is this guy right here, and 55948, which is this guy right here. Now, I'm going to need to close this and relaunch it so that the software will recognize that the DAC is actually there. And so now what I have is zone 1, I have 50340, which is this guy. And then on this one, zone 2, I have 48, which is this guy. What this means is that any patterns in this workspace that I have assigned to zone 1 will automatically be routed to this guy. Any patterns that I have assigned to zone 2 will automatically be routed to this guy. What this means is that anything that is connected to this physical piece of hardware will do the same thing at the same time. Now, you can mirror them sometimes in the projector. You can mirror the y-axis or something like that. But fundamentally, if this is projecting a circle, this can project whatever it wants, but anything connected to this will be a circle. Let's say this is a circle and this is a square. Everything connected to this will be projecting a square. Everything connected to this will be projecting a circle. This is pretty important when you're working with multiple projectors and you want to, say, have text in one place and beams in another. We'll get into that in just a second, but I want to show you a little bit about what's going on in this zone dialog. So to test your zones, you can click these little check boxes right here and output grid patterns. Now you see right away there's a clear difference between the two projectors. So to illustrate that, I'm actually going to back up out of this for 1 second and go to projector settings. Now, you remember this from one of our earlier videos when we're talking about how to set up your projector for whatever kind of situation you have. In this case, projector 1 we already have set up. There is our test pattern. That's coming out of our Skywriter. This guy going to our Skywriter. But now we have another option, which is that we have this drop down for projector 2. That's this guy going to our X-beam. So I'll go ahead and click that, and you see in order to try and get those to stack kind of well on top of each other, I've had to really constrain down my zone here, and more importantly, I have changed the scan rate. I'm all the way down at 12K. I'm way above 8 degrees, and the scanners are way out of tune, but I'm all the way down at 12 degrees. If I were to go up to, say, 30 degrees, this thing turns, 30K, this thing turns into spaghetti. It's way above the rating of the projector. What's good about this is that using the concept of zones, you can have two different projectors with two different sets of capabilities. Faster scanners, slower scanners, analog, TTL, one color, three colors, whatever the case may be, and customize the software so whatever data it's sending to that projector is going to be correct for that projector. and any projector that's attached to it. This is another reason why you need to be careful about daisy chaining, because projectors that can daisy chain, for example, skywriters will daisy chain. But if I were to daisy chain from a skywriter to an X-beam, I'm sending out data that's twice as fast as the X-beam can handle, and I'm doing all sorts of other weird things with colors that the X-beams don't do. So let's say I had an analog projector here. I'd be sending this an analog signal, this a TTL signal, because it won't accept analog, and the whole thing turns into a mess. Zones are super important and will really help you, especially if you're working with different types of projectors. Okay, let's go back to our projection zone dialog, and I'll show you just a little bit about what's available in here. This is the general tab that sort of explains what's going on in this zone. Please notice that even though projector 1 and zone 1 are put together, I could, if I was so inclined, assign this DAC to that zone. So now this zone is outputting to this DAC, and this zone is outputting to this DAC. You can customize it however you want. You can have up to 8 of these DACs connected to one instance of the software, but please bear in mind, if you do that, you need to have a pretty good amount of memory, because it gets kind of hairy at that point with memory. Little powered USB hub, plug them all together, works great as long as you have the memory. Okay, so I'm not going to do that because that would be totally crazy. I'm going to go ahead and assign this back to projector number 1, just like that. And now, since I've just added this guy, I can go to the geometric correction, and I'll go ahead and output a pattern. And that actually looks pretty good, a little flickery because it's way out of tune, but it looks pretty good. But just to illustrate the point, I can change the position of the pattern within the frame. I can rotate it. I can pin cushion it. I can do all sorts of crazy things to try and make it be exactly what I need it to be for wherever I'm going to be projecting it. And you can do that with each output, with each set of data coming out of one of these pieces of hardware. You also have this really neat functionality called the beam attenuation map, which we're going to be talking about in a later video. Really cool functionality, but for right now, what I want you to know is that you can output any zone to any DAC and connect it to any projector or series of projectors, and everything that is attached to this DAC will do the same thing at the same time. And to do that output, which I'll show you more of in just a few minutes in a later video, what you do, you right-click on any queue, queue properties, and there you have a full list of zones that you can choose from and assign any given queue to any given zone, which will send it to any given DAC, to any given projector, fully customizable no matter how big your rig is. You can find a way of doing it with Quickshow XL. Stay tuned for more videos in this series, and for more information on zones, check out the video on working with multiple projectors.